Welcome to Finding Fuscata. I'm Sean. I learned something during my military career about the process of life and death and how to achieve ego detachment, which sounds kind of weird, I know, but I think it might be a valuable skill for you. It may be a valuable thing for you to understand. I know that for me, it has been incredibly valuable as I've moved through my civilian career and as I moved through my military career. Once I started to see this pattern, and so I'm going to share it with you. One big difference I've noticed between military life and civilian life is, at least for me, maybe you have a different experience of this, but certainly for me, has been my level of attachment and commitment to whatever job it is that I'm doing. What I mean is that when I was in the military, I was Air Force through and through. I bled blue, as we used to say. And I believed in the Air Force mission. I believed in what we did. I believed all the propaganda, and I was all in. I was completely 100% in. So when I was there, regardless of where I was, when I was doing my job, I was serious about it. I paid attention to how I did it. I did it well. I did it to the best of my ability. I did it with integrity. I took my Air Force core values very seriously. And those are integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And I took that very, very seriously for 23 years. Then when I joined the civilian workforce, I found that those core values, while they served me in the military and they served me in my personal life, they didn't serve quite as well, or they still applied, but they weren't as valued in the civilian sector, even now as a government employee. But what that did for me while I was in the Air Force is it gave me what I think is a unique perspective on our life cycle. And what I mean is that when you first join the military and you get on the bus or you get on the plane and you go to Lackland Air Force Base, or you go to Fort Leonard Wood, or you go wherever it is that your initial training is, your boot camp, or your just your basic training, whatever you call it, you're a complete newbie. You have no idea what's going on. They used to call us green suiters because once you were through with your basic training and then you got your uniforms, then you were a blue suiter. But when you first showed up, you were just like, or the rainbows. They called us rainbows because everybody showed up. Everybody's wearing their own colors, and some people have beards, and some people have long hair, and it's just like an array of people all over the place, you know. And it didn't take long, though, for people to discover that once people got settled in and they got their heads shaved and they got their uniforms and you got your dorm assignments and you started to kind of learn the ropes and you learn your position within the flight and you learned your drill sergeant's name and you learned like all that kind of stuff. And after a couple of weeks, you got better at it, and then you'd see new flights coming in. There'd be new groups of rainbows coming in, and you were starting to maybe get like a little bit of hair back because it had been a couple of weeks and you weren't just completely shaved bald, you know. And you learned how to interact with the drill instructors and the training instructors, and you had learned like when the chow times were, and you learned how to get to different places and where your appointments were, and you were getting better at marching, and you understood just more about military life in that little cooking pot of basic training, or boot camp, or however you call it. And then by the end of it, you were one of the old schoolers, and you'd seen, a bunch of people come and go. Some people come in, they get washed out, or they can't make it. Or some people have gotten, promoted to different positions, or you've had different drill instructors, a lot of different change, and you've learned a lot of the lingo, and you know what's happening. And just about the time you get really, really good at it, it's time to graduate. And then you graduate, you have your little ceremony, you get your orders for your first duty station, and then you go. And then you get to your first duty station. And, you're in your suit, and, like a couple weeks before, you'd been like the old timer in basic training. And, you knew everything, and maybe you were a element leader or a dorm leader, or, maybe you had some kind of position of authority there. And then, or you go to your first training, and you show up there, and you don't have any stripes, and you're a brand new person, and your hair is grown back a little bit, but not enough to be, like a hairstyle. And you see all these people ahead of you who've got, their hair's grown back, and, they've been doing their training for a little while, and they can wear civilian clothes on the weekends and go places. And, because you've been in that, so when you go to the tech training, they kind of slowly release you from the pressure cooker that you've been in basic training. And they give you more rights and privileges as you kind of go along. But then after a few weeks, you're no longer the newbie. You've learned the chain of command. You've learned what school you're going to, what building you're going to be in, where the chow hall is, when payday is. Like you've figured all that kind of stuff out. Your hair's grown back, and you've earned some privileges, and you can go downtown on the weekends. Maybe you can, have some family come in and visit, and like little by slowly, you reintegrate into this new military life. And then you go through school, you go through your training, and you get good at that. And some people take in leadership positions, and some people come and go, and some people wash out. And, it's the same cycle that happens basically in basic training, but now through your technical training. And then you get to the end, and you graduate, and then you go to the next thing. And you go to the next duty station. For me, I went to England. I went to Mildenhall in the United Kingdom. And when I first got there, I wasn't, the senior student in the tech school anymore. I was a brand new guy with one stripe on my sleeve, and everybody else had been there for years and years, and they knew the job, and they were really good at it, and started the whole process all over again. Where do I go get food? Where do I live? Who's in command? Who's my boss? How do I do this job? Where do I figure this out? Where's my, and then you just do that and do that and do that and do that. And then eventually, you make some rank, and you get promoted, and you get more responsibilities. And, after a couple of years, then you're really good at what you're doing, and you fully understand the job. And right about that time, the Air Force comes along and says, hey, we want you to go somewhere else, or we're going to have you go do something else. And then you go there. And it's the same process over and over and over again. Every time you go someplace, you're learning something new, and you're doing something new, and you're figuring it out. And you can see the correlation between life and one of these military assignments. And when you first plop out onto the planet, you don't know what's happening. You're blinking bright-eyed and starry-eyed in dreams of the future, and everything's amazing and lovely and wonderful, and you're learning about, life. And then you get smacked down or slapped down or encouraged, or you grow and you change and you get better, and you go through school, and you get into your younger years, and maybe you get married and have kids, and you do all this kind of stuff. You start a career, you start a business, who knows, whatever it is that you do. And then you get towards the end, and you're not as, as capable anymore. And then you kind of, you die. That's it. The big difference, though, between military life and civilian life is that usually when you have a job, say in your civilian career, or maybe you live your life and you've always lived in one area, or maybe you're the type of person who finds a career, finds a job, finds like a particular line of work, and then you just do that your whole life. or maybe you've just always lived someplace close to where you grew up, you know. In the military, when you move from these different places, sometimes you'll meet somebody who is at, or who just came from someplace where you were stationed, right? So for me, for example, I was stationed at Fairchild Air Force Base, worked there for a few years. We put a couple of programs in place. We had some big inspections. We had some new processes and procedures that we got in line, and we got more efficiency, and everything was going really well. And, you know, once I got all that stuff kind of up and running, it was just time to go to a different duty station. You know, I went to Korea for a while, and then I went to Alaska for a while, but a few years later, I bumped into somebody who had been stationed at Fairchild and had gotten there about a year after I'd left. And I asked them, we got talking about the job and how things were going and processes and procedures and everything like that. And it turned out that all that hard work that I had done, that my team and I had done to change and improve processes at Fairchild Air Force Base, were gone. Within a year, it had been forgotten. Nobody did it anymore. They'd gotten a new idea. They'd gotten a new cool program. There'd been some new leadership. There was, you know, changes had happened. And like all that effort and energy that I put in to that job while I was there, and as seriously as I had taken it, because remember, I really, really believed in the Air Force mission. I believed in what we did. I believed in saving taxpayers' dollars, all that kind of stuff. It was 100% gung-ho. And within a year of me leaving, it was gone. It was like I had never done anything. And the first time I heard about that, man, that was an ego blow. That was hard for me to take. But then I started thinking about how much things do change in the military, and looking back over time and seeing how when I arrived at a new duty station, when I got to Elmendorf or Osan or, you know, Kirkuk or wherever the place was that I went, I would see how the previous folks had done things, and I would adopt some things that I thought were a good idea, or maybe they hadn't documented their process well enough and I'd have to kind of reinvent it, or maybe I had my own habits and processes and procedures, and I would kind of take maybe a little bit from what they'd done, but then I would just like do my own thing. Or we'd get a new commander, and our new commander would have a vision of how things needed to be, and he or she would say, hey, we're gonna go this direction now, we're gonna do this now. And so I learned to just stop having any kind of ego attachment to whatever it was that I was doing in the military, unless it was something where the work I thought I was doing was gonna, you know, leave some kind of legacy, right? So my last job in the Air Force was writing training manuals, and I thought, oh yeah, for sure, this is gonna leave some kind of lasting legacy. This will be something that'll be important, right? Because the training manuals that I had when I was a young airman all the way up through Master Sergeant were pretty much the same. They had not changed very much at all. And even though it was, you know, the 2000 teens, there was still information in there about how to do manual drafting and like how to sharpen your pencil and how to use manual surveying equipment, like stuff that was just, by the standards of the 20 teens, was just completely archaic. And I had always been irritated that nobody had ever taken it out. So when I got the opportunity to get into that job, man, I deleted that stuff so quick, and I completely rewrote those training materials, and it was a completely new thing that I put out. And I was so proud of it, and I thought, oh, for sure, you know, this legacy is going to last for a while. But then, of course, after I retired, I came back around some Air Force folks and I met some folks from my career field. And the training materials that they were used didn't have my name on it. Nothing. It was like somebody else had come in after me and made a couple of changes, and then somebody else had come after him and made a couple of changes. And now, like, everything that I had done was just completely gone. Just gone. Evaporated. And for a while, to be perfectly honest, it was an ego punch. I put in all that work. I put in all that work and dedication and loyalty. And for what? For a paycheck, for a temporary change, for, I don't know. And it seems like, at first glance, maybe when you hear the story, you might think, it doesn't matter what you do because everything's going to change. And, if you take my stories and, you extrapolate it out to look at, the course of somebody's life, I can see where it'd be easy to adopt an attitude of nihilism and just say, well, none of it matters. So why bother with having integrity? Why bother with excellence? Why bother? It's just ridiculous. 'Cause nothing matters. No matter what you do, you put in all this effort, all this blood, sweat, and tears, and in a little while, it's just going to be gone anyway, like a vapor on the wind. So who cares? Well, I'll tell you who cares. And this was a surprising thing to me. Because I ran into an airman not long after I had retired from the Air Force. I ran into somebody from our career field. And this person knew me. And this person said that when they knew me as, I think I was a technical sergeant back then, before I put up master sergeant. When this person knew me back then, I inspired them because I had integrity and my uniform looked sharp and I had a positive attitude about things. And I encouraged them and I built them up and I encouraged them to take risks and to believe in themselves. And I told them about, how to develop themselves and how to develop their career. Gave them relationship advice, like all these other sorts of things that I had thought were not related to my Air Force career because I was so focused on the job. I was so focused on doing the thing that what I didn't realize is that the legacy that I left had nothing to do with whatever I did in uniform. It had nothing to do with the job that I did in the Air Force. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with who I was. And what I've come to see now, if you can still kind of juxtapose these two ideas of, your whole life from birth until death, you're going to do a lot of things. You're going to have a lot of relationships. You will maybe be a parent or a lover or a partner or a father, son, mother, daughter, aunt, nephew, like who, I don't know. But there's going to be some part of you that's there. But none of that is permanent. No school that you go to is a permanent school. No job that you have is a permanent job. No position that you have is a permanent position. Like right now, I'm a husband. But one day, I'll either be dead and no longer a husband, or I'll be a widower because my wife passed away and I'll no longer be a husband. And maybe if I'm young enough, I might get remarried. I don't know. I don't know. It's not my job to know that stuff. But the thing is like, even the things that you think are the most permanent things in your life are temporary. So why bother doing your best at it? And the reason is It's because of the non-tangibles. It's because of the subtle non-tangibles. It's because of the example that you carry out. It's because of the way that you live your life. Because people see you. People see what you do. People see how you are in the world. And that's the kind of thing where when you put that energy into it, when you put in the energy of excellence and service before self and integrity, and you do that into your life, then that ripples out. That's what ripples out into the world. It doesn't matter what kind of widget you make. So you manufacture, 20 quadrillion, wibbledy-jibs, and you sell them to the Oompa Loompas, and you make $1 quadrillion. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It matters nothing in the end. What matters is who you were when you did it. How did you influence the people around you? How did you improve the world in subtle, non-tangible ways to bring about general positive change in the world? Do you see what I mean? Do you see how that kind of changes things? Because so much of our world these days has become so materialistic. And if you've listened to me before, you know that what I mean by materialistic isn't just, driving a Maserati and having hot people all around you and, partying and, passing out $100 bills, y'all. Nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. But materialism is when you think that this car, these trees, the people, the earth, the dollars, the trinkets, the high life or the low life, or whatever, all of the tangible, all the 10,000 things. When you think that matter is what matters, and you pursue that, that's when the whole system starts to get worse. That's when the whole system starts to crumble. Can you see that? And we've become so materialistic, and people think that, oh yeah, we're just become materialistic. But it's not just that we've become materialistic, it's that we've forgotten why we're here. We've forgotten to be loving. We've forgotten to be idealistic. We've forgotten to be spiritual. And even if you don't believe that there's any kind of spirituality, you must believe, you have to believe, if you have any kind of a rational mind, you have to understand that, you aren't the only person here. All the rest of us are here too. And whatever you do, in whatever small way that improves the world for all of us. Even if it's something simple like being kind, not being rude to the girl who makes your coffee, not carrying out road rage, like all those little things. We're just living a life of integrity so people can know, that, Susie over there in, Sheboygan, man, you can definitely rely on her. Jim Bob from Pulaski, Alabama, man, he's a good dude. He doesn't make a lot of money, but you can rely on him. He's good people. And then that becomes an inspiration. And then that lifts up the whole thing, because the problem with becoming materialistic is that we forget that we are a collective. Humanity as a whole is a collective. And what we do influences all the rest of us. And that's why I still live by the Air Force core values of integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all I do. Am I perfect at it? No. Nope. not by a mile. But it's there at my core. And that's the standard that I hold other people to. And I expect them to hold me to it. And then we build each other up. And if you keep doing that, if I keep doing that, then, you know, when the day comes and I lay this body down for the last time, it won't matter if there's an afterlife. It won't matter if I have to go, you know, see Jesus and there's a judgment. It won't matter if there's the lights go out and there's just nothing anymore. Because this world will carry on. Time will keep roiling. People will keep being born. New people will keep showing up. And there will be systems and programs in place. There will be civilizations that'll keep churning and doing the things that they do. And new people will come into it. And old people will go out of it. And the whole cycle of life will keep going. And when I laid down this body for the last time, and I'm not using it, and it goes back to soil, it won't matter how many widgets I sold. It won't matter how many podcasts I recorded. It won't matter how many dollars I earned. It won't matter. Like, none of that will matter. Nobody will care. But what will matter is if I lived a life of integrity. And not because somebody's going to look and say, oh, remember that Sean guy, you know, who's born in, you know, the 70s and died in the, you know, 2060s or whenever, like, I don't know. Remember that one guy who did these amazing things and had like all that integrity for all that time? No, nobody's going to matter. Nobody's going to care. But it's the influence, it's the energy pattern that I leave behind. It's those subtle things that influence other people around me that kept this whole thing that we call civilization kind of generally moving and churning in the right direction. And that's why it's important to do the right things for the right reason. That's why it's important to have integrity. That's why it's important to always seek after excellence. And don't compromise. Don't compromise excellence. Always be seeking for it. Always be seeking to better yourself. Always be seeking to, you know, improve the world around you, to prove yourself. Just by, you know, a little bit every day. But by doing that, that's the legacy that you leave behind. It's not something tangible. I mean, it might be, but even that doesn't last. Even eventually the Rockefeller fortune is going to go away. Anyway, those are my thoughts for the day. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are being kind. I hope you're choosing forgiveness over vengeance. And I hope you are seeking more to understand than to be understood. And I hope that you like find some joy in your life today. You know, go talk to your lover and make love for a while. Or go have some ice cream, or, you know, go do something awesome with somebody else. Yeah, as much as you can, if it's possible. And if you can't, for whatever reason, do something awesome by yourself and just enjoy your own company. Yeah, I've done that many times, and it's been beautiful experiences. Anyway, hope this finds you well, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for your time.